Well, this is my first vlog. Not vlog, I would say. Well, let me start. Hold on. What's up, guys? Did I say that already? Oh, man, let's just keep it rolling. We're not gonna do no cuts, no nothing. So, I've been having a lot on my mind, right? With all the war, all the disconnect, controversy that's, promoting the disconnect. Just a whole bunch of action, but no benefit. I want to believe that our votes and what we say, what we believe, our ideology means something. But as days, months, years go by, we just get more comfortable. And how as we the people become uncomfortable? How can we as the people learn from our mistakes? How as we as the people can understand completely what's wrong and what's right? This is just off the top, by the way. Why must we continue to fall on our faces? Not only the Americans, not only the United States, but every single nation striving or salivating over this power, over this control, over money. Those three things that I mentioned aren't as powerful as nature, the earth, the human life. Am I a socialist? Am I a communist? Am I a Democrat? Or am I just a human living in this mess? I'm a human that's not comfortable. With everything that I've seen, see, witness on a day-to-day basis can be scarring, traumatizing, a form of PTSD for a child, a teen, a young adult. It can be very traumatizing. Let me give you some examples from my life. I had selective grouping of friends. That's a term I just made up in my head. Selective grouping of friends. So I'm gonna just make it short and simple. I pick and choose my friends. I pick and choose the groups. I pick and choose what I entertain. I pick and choose basically from right from wrong. That's what I choose. Right from wrong. And I don't know. I won't say I'm blessed with the ability to read people or just take different instances and different point of views and just not judge. The first thing we shouldn't do is not judge. We shouldn't judge. We should listen. When has listening became the unnorm? I feel to evolve and grow, we need to listen. But we choose to listen to the wrong things. Those wrong things are often mistaken for good. Social media, it's good. It further connects us, gets the message out there to a specific demographic or groups. Specific demographic. What you're gonna record and put out to the world is not gonna hit the world. It's gonna hit that certain demographic of people. Maybe with the same upbringing as you. Or you're just, fortunate enough that your video does blow up. Which I'm hoping for. I got so much on my mind. I'm gonna just be real. I need to do more studying, right? I gotta learn how to speak more, vocabulary and everything. But does that change the fact that I understand what's going on? The owning of properties, right? What effect does that have on us? Monopoly. Owning properties is a form of monopoly. When you own properties, you have the ability to gain income. When you own a property, you have the ability to gain income. That is a monopoly. Not only that, I had this analogy in my head, right? That when things start to become more finite, meaning less of scarce materials, scarce foods, when we get to that point, what? Okay, let me retract. Okay, I'm back. I believe that our next war isn't gonna be about power or ideology or freedom. Power, right? And you may ask, how to obtain this power? Over centuries, you conquer land, you implement your beliefs, ideologies, implementations to see if they will come to fruition, right? You implement all of this not knowing at the time it was going to be a monopoly, that it would create this distinction of two parties, meaning they have different powers, different abilities, different access to things, jobs, opportunities. We're gonna go based off of what I've intaked. And I can't help but notice that me walking into, this is just completely off topic, but I walked into a Costco and I couldn't help but notice, right? All the dates on the thing is saying sell by 2 days prior. It has 2 days, and say for example the day is November 11th. It says sell by the November 13th. It doesn't say the expiration date. It doesn't say nothing. Just sell by. Also, I understand it's a wholesale supermarket. However, what made my stomach turn was the amount of food, produce, just sitting there. The abundance, the surplus of all this food just possibly not being used to its highest potential. There's no organizing, there's no limit. It's freedom in all the wrong places. Free transportation for MTAs. Again, another form of freedom, but there's complications and negatives that follow. Making stuff alleviated and free for the people. When you implement a bunch of wholesale supermarkets, Amazon, etc., you're taking the foundation of cultures that begin manufacturing, that are crucial to the manufacturing. Not only that, farming. When you implement a bunch of wholesale supermarkets where people can just go in and out, and we don't have farms, we don't have gardens in our communities, I believe that's where we start this decline. Urbanization has led us to this downfall. I'm not sure how us as the people we can fix this, but what I do know is that if we stand together, if we hold each other's arms like cross and we just stand, peaceful protest, say what's really going on, be comfortable to communicate with one another, collaborate with one another, allow these people higher up to give people opportunity below, mid-class. We got a lot of things that needs to be fixed. And when I say fixed, it doesn't mean that things aren't correct. Things aren't in place to succeed. What I mean by to correct is, what do I mean? I was gonna pause the video, but I'm not. I'm gonna just keep it going. This is a process. It's not because nothing is wrong or things are projected. There's a projected outcome, whether it's positive or negative, because life comes with positive and negative, and you have to persevere through that. There's no picking one side of the fence or the other. You have to remain neutral, right in the middle. And being neutral, it comes with prosperity, it comes with calmness, understanding. Why choose left or right? Why choose Democrat or Republican or communist or ideologist or... Let's get down to solutions. Let's talk amongst one another. Like, I see so much propaganda, so much news outlets promoting versus. Versus. What does versus mean? 1v1, 2v2. Let's forget about 1v1, 2v2. What does versus mean? Going against one another. A fight. It doesn't gotta be a fight. It could be a debate. Versus. What is the issue with that? Your wording. Maybe you disagree. Your wording is very important. When these news outlets tend to put out verses, or he's not for the people, when we're all in this mess. We all walk into these doors, rooms, sign the contract. It happens. But how can we distinct those people that actually mistakenly walked into these rooms and signed these contracts, but still want to do the right thing? How can we do that? And yeah, I don't got no filter on. I don't got. Nah, this is me, Bronx, baby. Born and raised. What's driving me to make this video actually is I'm from 10457. That zip code, right? Zone implementation plan. That's what zip code means. Zone implementation plan. Whether that's for demographic, economics, lifestyle, diseases, that is what a zone implementation plan is for. Now, would I say that 10457 is one of the best zip codes? Less than not even 5 minutes. So this really hits home for me. Less than 2 minutes, I'm pointing right at it, is a drug HIV AIDS rehab center. Now, I'm not throwing down, I'm not bashing, because the people that's in those rehab centers have their own story. They have their own trauma. They have their own problems that they're going through, whether that's mentally, physically, with joints, heart problems, lung problems, you name it. You name it. But having a rehab center like that in a community where percents of crime rates, poverty, HIV and AIDS, a bunch of, we're not even gonna get into it. But is that benefiting a community like the Bronx? Is that benefiting? 10457 is right where, I mean, there's a bunch of different zip codes that run along the Cross Bronx Expressway. But none of the other zip codes hits like this. My message to Mom Donnie, if your beliefs, your way of order, your way of righteousness aligns with our Western beliefs, we don't like things to be confusing. That's why I said, communicate and collab. Understand one another. My dad worked in that rehab center. I suffered asthma when I was younger, but thank God that I wasn't a lazy shite, right? I played basketball, I rode bike, I climbed gates, so asthma just, it died down for me. I wasn't eating unhealthy. I was taken care of. For the most part. Now, when we want to talk about big implementations to save the society, save civilizations that are crumbling, communities that are crumbling, we have to we have to stop putting our funds to the military. And when we do that, you will see a bunch of materials, minerals, resources, funds, protection. It just becomes abundant. Why is that? I can answer that. Because there's less funds going to war, right? And what does war do? Divide. Versus. Right? Remember, wording is very important. War does that. It implements conquer and divide. It makes sure the middle class and lower class has an opportunity to get a job when they get drafted. But they don't say that you're signing your life away. In the contract, it says 4 years. But they can call you anytime. They can come get you anytime. Now, does that sound like a 4-year contract agreement? Free dental, free vision, free all that sounds amazing. Discounts, everything. Sounds dope. But what's stopping the regular civilian that's giving back to the community, picking up garbage, picking up litter, planting in gardens, going to these fundraisers, giving his ideas and implementations? What's the difference? He's a good citizen, no crime record. Why can't he have access to military supermarkets? Why do military men and women have these separate supermarkets? Why do they get to be tax-free? Why are we as low-income communities bashed, right? We're technically bashed for it. We're bashed for being this low income, deriving, crime driven. We are not at fault for it. That's what I want to get across to the people. We are not at fault for any of this. Your addiction, your addiction is not your fault. It's not. Now, may I ask you, who's watching this? I can probably say that I'm not gonna assume, because people with, habits, how can I say this? People with habits aren't usually, or aren't always, because I was having this talk with my friends, they aren't always, they aren't always victims to sexual assault, rape. I hope I don't get demonetized for this, but I've seen worse on the internet. I've seen worse. How can we be blamed? With everything I said, not to get too deep into it, to not get you lost, how can we be blamed for having our addictions when these stores, when these drug dealers, when these people are still on the street? There's a liquor store less than 2 to 3 minutes from the HIV and AIDS rehab center. Oh, there's also a daycare right in the same facility. Oh, my mom worked there too. So, this entity, or not entity, because that's higher up. Sarcastic. Higher up. Not entity, because Promessa's not an entity. They're not. They're just a organization to help benefit the community. Right. How is it? How is it benefiting the community? Maybe I am trapped in this little bubble. What if there's other rehab centers that I haven't researched yet? That I'm only fixated on this right here? Is it destined? Is it my desire that I want to do this because my parents? Or is it just because what I'm seeing? Maybe it could be all of them, you know. Yeah, I think it's all of them. Yeah. I played basketball one day. And, you know, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. It didn't even last 2 hours, but let me get to it. It didn't last 2 hours or more than I wanted to. But, Promesa Park, right? Everybody from the Bronx probably knows about Promesa Park. It's right next to Claremont Park. There's a McDonald's. So who doesn't know about Webster, this area, right? Right? Who doesn't know? A lot of knowing is good. You know, the more we know, the more we can speak, the more we can have these talks and debates and conversations amongst one another. But when that understanding and you believe what you believe is often told or not told, because we just listen. As humans, we're listeners before we speak. This community, not only, I want to start here. I basically gave up where I live, but I'm going to start here. And within time, we're going to get this right. We're going to get this absolutely correct. Now, I don't know how. Maybe I do, you know. I do know how we could do it. What we could do is stand together. All this media outlet, all of this is for a certain demographic. And I'm sorry to... I don't believe that people in Arkansas is getting Mondani, is getting these Trump, maybe Trump, because he is the president. But anything with governors are swept under the rug. Why don't governors communicate more? Why is it turning into... Now we could bring back entities, because this is a big state. And when you want to talk about powers and different powers, because they don't have no power. This rehab center doesn't have power. Governors and states and politicians, in this world, that's power. In the civilization, in multiple civilizations, that's power. Of course, they've went to school, to college to study all of these things. Or maybe it was a scripture that they studied vigorously. I'm speaking from my heart. And I can only imagine that with all this festering in this community, I can apply that, right? I can apply that imagination to many different communities around the world that's not doing as bad as us, but the same system is being used. How can... The real question of all of this, of why I made this video, right? I am uncomfortable. And we should all be uncomfortable. And when I mean uncomfortable, it doesn't mean to, you know, start being uncomfortable, right? You can still be comfortable, but just be comfortable with what you believe. But at the same time, don't allow that comfortability to dilute your pure mindset of what needs to get done. If that makes sense. Not saying, because I always like to not contradict myself, but I like to go back on exactly what I said, if I remember. You know, being uncomfortable starts with your comfortability changing. And when I mean to be uncomfortable, it doesn't mean to riot. It doesn't mean to not talk to each other. It means to work with each other. Work with each other to arrive at this end goal. How can we use military? How can we use all these resources that's being used to the better of good? How can we do, or how can we assure that background checks of all things, background checks of all things, are done the proper way?